Australia. A vast country of breathtaking natural beauty, teeming with extraordinary and iconic animals. And nothing says down under quite like a kangaroo. Renowned for their springy locomotion and boxing brawls. They're the most successful species of the mammals known as marsupials. These kangaroos are eastern greys. They're prolific breeders and raise their young in pouches. But bringing up baby is fraught with challenges. Predators, climactic extremes, and extremely lively joeys mean kangaroo mums face a daily struggle to keep their offspring alive. This is the secret life of the kangaroo. Sundown National Park in Australia sits on the border of New South Wales and Queensland. A rugged wilderness with rolling hills, deep river valleys, and mountain peaks rising to over 1,000 metres. Down in the lowlands, the park is home to around 300 eastern grey kangaroos. This large colony lives permanently here, feeding in the forest by night and out on the open pasture by day. For many of the females here, child rearing is a constant preoccupation. Eastern greys are prolific breeders. Each year the park sees the arrival of around 150 new joeys, the name used for all baby marsupials. And like all marsupials, kangaroos give birth to undeveloped young, which they raise in a specialised pocket, known as a pouch. Females can reproduce more than once a year, with family life somewhat resembling a production line. In fact, a female can have 3 babies, all at different stages of development. She can have one young at foot, living beside her on the ground. Another small joey growing inside her pouch, and be pregnant with a 3rd baby in waiting. The embryo of the 3rd joey can be in a state known as diapause. The pregnancy is literally on pause until there's more room in the pouch. But while this is an incredibly efficient way of ensuring maximum production of young, raising even one joey to an independent kangaroo that can fend for itself is extremely difficult. Around 50% of the joeys here don't make it. At each stage of the joey's development, mothers have to struggle to keep them well nourished and safe from predators. And it's something the females have to do alone. After mating, the males play no part in the raising of their young. Everything is down to mum. This is Lauren, named by the researchers who are studying the breeding patterns of the kangaroos here to find out more about why only some joeys survive. Despite numerous attempts in the last 4 years, Lauren hasn't been able to successfully raise a joey past 18 months old. For some mums, this is a common occurrence, while others seem to find the challenge of raising a joey far easier. But Lauren's managed to get her latest baby, Butterscotch, to 9 months. The little Joey is healthy, and now she's in and out of the pouch. So far, all is well. But the next 6 months will be critical, and everything will depend on Lauren. Only when the time is right, when her daughter has learned how to stay safe from harm, will Lauren let her go and fend for herself. A fully grown Eastern Grey may reach 1.5 metres tall. But when it's born, it's very undeveloped and just a couple of centimetres long. Kangaroos give birth 30 days after mating, much sooner than other mammals of a comparable size. At birth, the tiny Joey is more like an embryo than a baby, and once born, it crawls up the fur on the underside of its mother's belly into the pouch. Inside the pouch, the hairless Joey, little bigger than a jelly bean, finds its way to one of 4 teats. It's unable to bite down, so the pointed end of the teat expands inside its mouth to stop the Joey falling off. Once the Joey latches on, it will only feed from the one teat until it weans. The pouch is a complete life support system, providing everything a growing Joey needs: food, warmth, and shelter from the elements. And it'll be its home for the next 11 months. Special sphincter-like muscles in the pouch opening keep the Joey safe inside, while Mum has her nose to the ground, grazing. Pouches are an efficient method of reproduction. So much time in the pouch allows a Joey to do lots of growing before it has to face the outside world. After around 6 months safely nestled inside the pouch, a young Joey will poke her head out for the first time. This is Poppy. Her mum Tilly needs to graze constantly to ensure she is making enough nutritious milk for her new Joey. Poppy has just begun to take a look at the outside world and is yet to leave the safety of her mother's pouch. In around 3 months' time, she should be ready to take her first bouncing steps on her own 2 feet. But she has a lot of growing to do first. She won't start to get her full coat of dense fur until around 9 months. For now, her hair is fine and smooth. Her face is slightly pinker, especially around the nose, and her eyes are large and out of proportion with the rest of her head. Poppy is what is known as a pouch young, and life right now consists of staying safely within her climate-controlled envelope. She's protected against predators and from Australia's changeable environment. But as she grows, she will increasingly poke her head outside to sneak a peek at what's going on around her. Kangaroos are herbivores, spending the majority of their time grazing grasses and flowers. Joeys learn by watching other kangaroos. So at around 7 months old, while still tucked safely in the pouch, Joeys taste their first mouthful of grass. Over the next 2 months, legs get longer, heads get bigger, and tails get thicker. Eventually, after 9 months in the relative safety of Mum's pouch, it's time to leave that protective pocket and take the first tentative hops into the great outdoors. They've had a bit of a preview of what to expect from the outside world, but it's almost like a second birth. This Joey has just begun to explore on his own, each time taking longer and longer sorties away from his mum. After so long in the pouch, he's not very experienced at moving around. Hopping might come naturally, but it still takes coordination and practice. He's got to learn just what those great big gangly legs can really do. This time in a Joey's life is known as the in and out phase and lasts for the next month or two. After his brief foray into the outside, he's keen to get back home. But Mum and Joey need to work as a team. Both need to be in the right position for him to find his way back in. Mum needs to lean forward to create the necessary slack in the pouch opening for the youngster to clamber his way in. She also needs to lower her arms and hold them out to the side. But researchers here have noticed that this doesn't always come easily to some mothers. If this mum doesn't adopt the right position soon, it could lead to the Joey becoming exhausted before he can get back in safely. Outside, her Joey is completely defenceless. Predators could be watching. Carnivorous lizards called goannas live in sundown, as do predatory snakes. It's not venomous, but this carpet python would easily crush an 8-foot Joey. They hunt by stealth and ambush. They use heat-sensitive pits on the tip of their noses to detect tiny changes in temperature, which help them locate warm-blooded prey, like kangaroo joeys. Killing is by constriction. This suffocates the prey. A Joey that strays too far from the protection of its mother could be swallowed whole. At last, Mum bends down, and the inexperienced little Joey has his opportunity to return. But now he's missing the signal from Mum. Finally, her arms are out and he gets the message. He's back in, away from any hungry predator. At any stage, it can be hard for a mother kangaroo to keep her Joey alive. Drought, predation and disease can all take their toll on vulnerable young kangaroos. Controlling a Joey while keeping alert to dangers can be a testing time for young mothers, as new mum Tilly is finding out. Now, at 9 months old, her baby Poppy is consistently out on her own 2 feet. Her legs are still a bit too big for her body, but she's bursting with energy. Poppy's playful antics leave attentive mother Tilly little time to concentrate on feeding herself. When Poppy's not in the pouch or feeding from it, Tilly needs to be sure she's constantly aware of where her baby is. Kangaroos don't have great eyesight. While their sense of smell is good, their secret defence weapon is their ears. Kangaroos have very good hearing. Each ear can be moved independently to scan the surroundings for any sign of danger. When Tilly decides it's time to move on, she bends forward to signal to Poppy to get in the pouch. But Poppy has other ideas. Learning to hop at high speed is actually an essential skill for a growing joey. And Poppy is starting to get the hang of it. This spirited bouncing back and forth is known as rapid running. As she ventures away from Mum and puts her legs to the test, her huge Achilles tendon works like a giant elastic band. Each rebound gives her energy back for the next hop. Once she's an adult, she'll be able to hop at over 64 kilometres per hour. But for now, this short dash is fast enough for her, and she quickly scampers back again. Poppy swings her paws at Mum and hops off. Adult kangaroos often settle disputes by boxing, and Poppy has decided Mum is good for target practice. Tilly keeps up her patient attempt at getting Poppy into her pouch. But Poppy sneaks in a quick right hook. Play fighting and learning to box is all part of a joey's development. Scratching and sniffing is usually the precursor to a bit of play boxing. But you need to make sure you have a willing sparring partner. While this all seems light-hearted, this play has a serious side, and it's how crucial life skills are learned. In later life, fights are used for establishing hierarchy in the mob. It's mainly the males who fight, but females can get into scraps over access to food or space. However, tolerant Tilly has had enough fun for one day. Eventually, after a quick feed, she manages to get Poppy back in. Now, with Poppy inside her pouch, she can focus on feeding herself for a while. Tilly still needs to remain vigilant. Like her joey, she too is vulnerable to certain predators. The wedge-tailed eagle, the largest bird of prey in Australia, has been known to attack kangaroos. A huge, powerful eagle with a distinctively long, diamond-shaped tail. It's capable of taking prey several times its own weight and can easily pick off a young joey. And wedge-tailed eagles sometimes hunt cooperatively in pairs or even in small groups. When they do, these formidable hunters could kill a large adult kangaroo. Protective mothers work together too. Both mothers, Tilly and Lauren, are part of a group of kangaroos known as a mob. By staying close to other females, the extra ears listening out for predators help to keep their joeys safe. Hopefully this year will bring Lauren more success. Over the last 4 years, she has lost all her joeys. Most likely predators took them. This is a critical time for Butterscotch. For now, Lauren waits patiently as young Butterscotch ventures further from her side. She might appear calm, but her twitching ears betray that she's listening carefully for Butterscotch's movements. It's early morning, and Lauren's cleaning her pouch. After a night inside, Butterscotch is still tucked up. Cleaning a pouch is one of the first signs that a kangaroo is preparing for a new arrival and is about to give birth. And once she has a joey in the pouch, keeping it clean is an essential part of its care. She uses her long tongue to lick the inside of her pouch clean. When very small joeys are still inside, this licking will stimulate them to defecate. Mum then consumes the feces. And while this doesn't sound very appetising, it's a highly efficient way of reabsorbing any fluids the mother has lost from nursing. With an older joey, it's also important to ensure that Mum removes any mess that's been brought in with the constant hopping in and out. As well as pouch cleaning, all kangaroos, male and female, need to groom themselves regularly. In the summer months, ticks become a real nuisance, and joeys need to be kept tick-free too. Grooming is an essential part of bonding between Mum Tilly and her daughter Poppy. If Mum can get the mischievous joey to stay still for long enough. So when Poppy returns for some milk, Tilly seizes the opportunity to do some more grooming. And the young joey even gives it a go herself. Once she's weaned, Mum will leave Poppy to do her own grooming, so she needs to be well practiced. Tilly can't seem to keep hold of her joey long enough to finish the job. She uses her forearms to hold her daughter in place, but the joey soon wriggles free again. This grooming is about more than just removing irritating parasites. Ticks carry diseases, and youngsters like Poppy are especially vulnerable. With their immature immune systems, they'll be more susceptible to catching diseases from the ticks. The parasites feed on the joey's blood, and if an infestation is bad enough, the loss of blood alone will take its toll on her development. After dealing with a fidgety joey, Mum turns her attention to her own body, most of which she can reach herself. But for those hard-to-get-at places, there's help at hand. The willy wagtail is named for the characteristic sideways waggle of its tail. They're often found hopping about the grass, picking off insects disturbed by feeding kangaroos. But they're also partial to a blood-sucking tick or two. And the kangaroos welcome the help in removing the parasites. Those young kangaroos that have made it from small pouch-bound babies to tentative explorers are still reliant on their mothers until they're around 18 months old. As the time approaches for the joeys to leave, space in the pouch gets ever tighter. Their legs are now far too long and they stick out awkwardly. A mother will be carrying around at least 5 kilos of joey by now. Tilly's daughter Poppy has grown very large and will soon leave the pouch permanently. She's still up to her old tricks. This time, she kicks Mum instead of boxing her. She still takes regular drinks of her mother's milk, and Tilly diligently remains alert while her daughter feeds. The wind has picked up, which makes it far harder for Tilly to hear the sounds of any approaching threat. She prefers Poppy in the safety of her pouch. She's clearly not prepared to let the large joey fend for herself just yet. But hopping is increasingly difficult with such a large load. Poppy's arms and feet can no longer fit inside the pouch at all. She won't have many nights left in the protection of her mother's pocket. During this time, when their joeys are spending more and more time out of the pouch exploring, mothers tend to segregate themselves from the mob. Researchers believe this may be to reduce the chances of the increasingly adventurous joeys getting confused and losing their mothers when there are so many other adult females around. Despite some mothers taking these precautions, a joey can jump into the wrong pouch when frightened. One study DNA tested wild eastern greys and made the surprising discovery that almost 5% of joeys get adopted by a new mother during the in and out phase. If Poppy's scared enough to attempt entering a random pouch, there's every chance that the adoption might stick until she's independent. It's summer now, and as the weeks and months pass at sundown, the ground becomes increasingly parched. There's been very little rain, and after an unusually dry spring, sundown is in the grip of drought. Conditions like this can have a huge impact on joey survival rates. In 1982, a drought caused eastern grey populations to crash by 40%. Kangaroos can go a long time without a drink because they get most of the fluids they need from the foliage they eat. However, hot temperatures dehydrate the kangaroos. And the plants they feed on. So they'll need to drink more water. But this can be a risky business. This mother has a joey in the in and out phase. and has separated herself from the mob. Alone, she's lost the protection of the mob's collective senses. She's extremely cautious as she nears the edge for a drink. Predators often stake out waterholes in dry season, knowing thirsty kangaroos will be drawn to water. It's a dilemma, but the need for fluids overwhelms the risk of being so exposed. Mother and Joey are far from cover should they need to make a run for it. And fleeing at high speed on the rocky terrain of the dry riverbed would be difficult. But after drinking her fill, she makes it back to the relative safety of the tree line. Here at sundown, summer daytime temperatures can rise to 40 degrees Celsius. Kangaroos can't sweat, so to keep cool, they lick themselves. As the saliva evaporates, it cools their blood. It's very hot for a youngster inside the pouch, so to help keep her Joey cool, this mother has licked the fur on the outside. As the moisture evaporates, it cools the Joey inside. While finding drinking water and keeping cool is a challenge, at this time of year it's access to good grazing that makes it increasingly difficult for mothers to support their Joeys. The only green shoots to be found are in what remains of a waterhole. The water has completely dried up, but there's still enough moisture in the earth to support new plant growth. The tough pond vegetation is by no means ideal. But with so little greenery, these two kangaroos are competing for what's there. The contest is short-lived. One kangaroo quickly backs down. The weaker of the two has to resort to the poor brown grass in the dry meadow. Being prevented from getting enough good grazing has had severe consequences. She has a very saggy pouch opening. Her coat is raggedy and worn-looking, and her Joey is nowhere to be seen. She's not in full health. If a mother is struggling to produce milk and to get sufficient nutrition for herself, she can decide to save herself rather than risk both mother and Joey starving. A pouch like this is a sign that it's suddenly been vacated by a Joey. Either her Joey came out and was too small to find its way back in, or she may have deliberately ejected it. At a year old, Butterscotch is now the oldest Joey Lauren has managed to raise in the last few years. Despite the challenges brought by the lack of rain and poor quality grazing, Butterscotch is no longer living in the pouch. She's a young at foot. And Lauren is already attracting male attention again. This male smells Lauren's urine. He can detect hormones that will tell him if she's ready to mate again. But he doesn't get the message he wants. Kangaroos are able to pause a pregnancy while they have a pouch young. Lauren may have had one of these paused embryos in waiting, as she already has a new joey growing in her pouch. She won't be ready to mate again for a few months yet, which is why the male isn't interested. As the heat intensifies, Lauren finds it harder to get enough food. Even though Butterscotch is eating grass, she isn't weaned yet, so is still placing demands on her mother. And with a new joey in her pouch, Lauren must produce milk for two. Lauren's struggling. She's become very thin. One of the most remarkable aspects of kangaroo physiology is their ability to allocate different types of milk to offspring of different ages. Butterscotch will have been feeding from the same teat since she was born, and it's now stretched and elongated. When she weans, it'll shrink back to its original size for a new baby to latch onto. By only feeding each joey from one of her 4 teats, Lauren's able to reserve the premium high-fat content milk for her new young. Butterscotch will get poorer quality, thinner milk. And soon, she'll need to switch to a grass-only diet. She must be healthy and prepared for when her mother decides it's time to cut off the milk supply. So before she weans, Butterscotch needs to greatly increase the amount of time she spends foraging. For now, the joey still sticks close to her mother's side. This is the most dangerous time in a young kangaroo's life, when joey mortality is at its highest. They no longer have the safety of the pouch, but aren't yet independent and aware of all the dangers. Lauren's preoccupied by feeding. She needs to forage for most of the day to get enough nutrition from the grass. But while Lauren's grazing, Butterscotch is drifting, further and further away from Mum. The young joey finds herself on the edge of the forest. She heads back towards the mob, but encounters a group of kangaroos she doesn't recognise. Lauren is nowhere to be seen. Lauren risks losing another joey before reaching the weaning stage. Butterscotch calls for her mother. Lauren has her head raised. She seems to be aware that something's up, Butterscotch calls for her mother again. She's getting distressed. Finally, Lauren gets the message, and it's her turn to call out to Butterscotch. This is known as clucking and is usually a signal to joeys to get into the pouch. But Butterscotch is now a good way out of earshot. Although Butterscotch is close to other kangaroos who could alert her to danger, they won't protect her if a predator appears. Lauren finds a baby, but it's not Butterscotch. She continues her search for her daughter. There's a salt lick in Sundown, an area of soil where kangaroos gather to lick up essential minerals. Perhaps Butterscotch has followed the mob there. But she's not here. Lauren stands still and scans the horizon. Using her eyes, her sense of smell, and her highly sensitive ears. And this time, Lauren hears her. All she has to do now is home in on her joey's position. Butterscotch has got her ears working overtime too, twitching around in all directions, trying to hear her mum. Finally, they're reunited. For now, at least, Lauren sticks to her daughter's side as they head for the safety of the forest. But while Lauren and Butterscotch are safely back together, Tilly is now alone. Her precocious, mischievous Poppy is nowhere to be seen. When Poppy was last seen, she was still in and out of the pouch. But she hasn't made it past the tricky transition to becoming an independent young at foot. It's possible her unwillingness to heed her mother may have led to her demise. She was just too bold too soon. Around half of all joeys die before reaching adulthood. However, the high frequency of kangaroo reproduction ensures that numbers are healthy enough to sustain the population. Kangaroos are, in fact, very successful. There are 16 million eastern greys in Australia. And this success is in part thanks to the constant cycle of reproduction by kangaroo mums and their pouches. For Lauren, the toll of raising 2 joeys simultaneously has been worth it. She has a healthy, independent daughter, and things are looking up. The rains have returned. The lakes and rivers have been replenished, and there's fresh new grass, making life a little easier. Butterscotch has learned all she needs to survive by herself. And in just 6 months, she could be having little joeys of her own.